The crowd gathered that morning in front of the market square. The air was full of noise, people talking and laughing, some trying to sell vegetables, others hurrying to buy before the sun rose too high. In the middle of all that, a young woman of 22 years old named Nkem stood quietly, holding a basket of oranges. Her eyes kept darting from one face to another, hoping to make a sale, but most people ignored her. Nkem wasn't the kind of girl anyone noticed twice. Her clothes were plain, her slippers old, and her hair tied neatly with a small piece of fabric that had clearly seen better days. But behind that calm face was someone who carried too many worries. Her mother was sick, her younger brother was in school with unpaid fees, and the small profit from her fruit stall barely kept them fed. She tried to smile at a woman passing by. "Good oranges, auntie. Sweet like honey," she said softly. The woman glanced at her, then turned away, shaking her head. Nkem sighed and lowered her eyes. It wasn't the first rejection of the day. Not far from her stood a group of young women who sold fine clothes and perfumes. They were loud, full of laughter, teasing each other and the men who stopped to greet them. One of them, Aisha, was known for her beauty and sharp tongue. She noticed Nkem standing alone and smirked. "See that girl," Aisha said to her friends. "Always standing there like a tree. Does she think she's better than us?" Her friends giggled, and one of them shouted, "Nkem, how much is that your sour orange?" The others laughed harder. Nkem turned away, pretending not to hear, but her face burned. Aisha stepped closer, her gold bangles jingling as she moved. "I asked you something," she said. "How much is your orange, or are you too proud to talk?" Nkem swallowed hard. 50 naira for one," she replied quietly. Adeora's laughter rang out. 50 naira? For this small orange? Maybe you think it can cure hunger and heartbreak at the same time." The people nearby turned to watch, some smiling, others pretending not to. The sound of mocking laughter filled Nkem's ears until it felt like the whole market was against her. She tried to defend herself, but her words came out shaky. "It's not expensive. They're fresh from my farm." "Your farm?" Aisha repeated with mock surprise. "Who even said you have land? You probably pick them from the roadside." She grabbed one orange from Nkem's basket, bit into it, then spat it out dramatically. "Sour! You call this fresh?" The laughter grew louder. Someone clapped mockingly. Another shouted, "Next time, wash your oranges before selling." Nkem felt her chest tighten. Tears threatened to fall, but she blinked fast, refusing to give Aisha that satisfaction. "Please, return my orange," she said softly. Aisha looked at her for a long moment, then dropped the half-eaten fruit on the ground and stepped on it. "Here, take it." For a second, everything around Nkem went silent. The people who had gathered expected her to cry, maybe to shout. But she didn't do either. She bent down, picked up what was left of the orange, and quietly put it aside. Then she lifted her basket and began to walk away. The market noise returned, louder this time, filled with whispers and laughter. Some people pitied her. Others just enjoyed the drama. But no one stepped forward to help. As Nkem walked home that day, she kept her head high even though her heart was breaking. She passed a group of school children and forced a small smile when they greeted her. But once she reached the narrow footpath that led to her mother's house, she slowed down. Her legs felt heavy. Inside their small clay house, her mother, Mama Nena, sat on a low stool, coughing softly. "Nkem, you're back early," she said, her voice weak. Nkem dropped the basket and knelt beside her. "Mama, I couldn't sell much today," she whispered. Her mother touched her hand gently. "It's okay, my daughter. Tomorrow will be better." But Nkem didn't believe that. Something inside her had changed. The humiliation she faced at the market had burned too deep. She sat quietly for a long time, staring at the dying fire in the cooking pot. Then she said, almost to herself, "Mama, I will show them. One day, they will see me differently." Her mother smiled faintly, not understanding what she meant. But Nkem's eyes were firm now. Something had awakened in her. It wasn't pride, it was determination. That night, as the crickets sang outside, Nkem couldn't sleep. She kept replaying Adeora's laughter in her mind, the way everyone had looked at her, the shame that had covered her like dust. Then slowly, an idea began to form, a quiet plan that could change everything. She turned to look at her mother's sleeping form and whispered, "I will not stay like this forever. I will make them regret what they did." Outside, the night carried her words into the air. And though no one knew it yet, that moment marked the beginning of something that would soon shake the entire village. Morning broke with the sound of pounding pestles and women's chatter drifting from nearby compounds. The market day had come again, and Nkem sat on a low stool outside their small house, peeling cassava with slow, steady hands. Her eyes were fixed on the knife, but her mind was far away. She had spent the night thinking about Adeora, about the laughter, and about the way people had looked at her as if she was worth nothing. Something inside her had hardened. "Mama," she said, her voice calm but firm. "I've decided to do something different." Her mother looked up from the mat where she was sorting beans. "What is it, my daughter?" "I won't keep selling oranges like this," Nkem said. "I'll start something of my own. Something they'll never laugh at again." Her mother frowned slightly. "But with what money? You know we have nothing saved." Nkem smiled faintly. "I'll find a way." That day, instead of going to the market, Nkem carried her basket through the back path that led to an old part of the village. There was a woman there called Auntie Ebel, known for making soap and palm oil. She was strict, but fair. Nkem greeted her with both knees bent, as custom demanded. "Auntie, good afternoon," she said. "Please, I want to learn what you do." Ebel studied her for a while before responding. "You want to learn how to make soap, eh? It's not easy. You'll wake early, your hands will sting from the lye, and you'll smell of oil all day." "I don't mind," Nkem replied. "I'll do anything." The older woman gave a short laugh. "All right, come tomorrow morning. Let's see how serious you are." And so began Nkem's new routine. Each dawn, she would leave home before the first cock crowed, walk barefoot through the red earth road, and reach Ebel's small workshop before the sun rose. The work was hard. Her arms ached from stirring thick mixtures of oil and soda, her fingers became rough, and sometimes her eyes burned from the smoke. But she didn't stop. Days turned into weeks. While Adeora and her friends paraded through the market with loud laughter and new dresses, Nkem worked silently, learning every detail of the craft. When she wasn't helping her mother, she was practicing at night, testing small batches behind the house using empty tins and firewood. Her mother often worried. "My daughter, you're working too hard. Rest small," Mama Nena would plead. But Nkem would just smile. "Mama, let me finish what I started. I can feel something coming." Soon, Ebel began to notice her dedication. One afternoon, after watching Nkem for hours as she carefully poured soap into molds, she said, "You have good hands. If you keep this up, you'll be better than me soon." Nkem laughed softly. "God forbid, Auntie. You're still the master." Ebel smiled. "No, my dear. You have the kind of focus that turns small things into great ones. Don't lose it." By the time 2 months passed, Nkem had learned everything, from mixing the ingredients to shaping and packaging. But the biggest challenge remained. Money. She needed capital to start her own trade. She decided to sell her mother's old sewing machine, which hadn't worked in years. She went from house to house until a neighbor agreed to buy it for a small price. It wasn't much, but it was enough to buy a few materials. She made her first 10 bars of soap and carried them to the same market where she once stood humiliated. People looked at her curiously. Some still whispered, remembering that awful day. But Nkem didn't care. She spread a piece of cloth on the ground and arranged her soaps neatly. They were smooth, wrapped in small brown papers she had cut from old newspapers. She called them Pure Touch. The first few hours were slow. Some people passed by without a glance. Others asked the price and walked away. But then an elderly woman stopped, sniffed one, and smiled. "This one smells good," she said. "Let me buy 3. That single sale drew attention. Soon another woman came, then a man who said his wife might like it. Before sunset, Nkem had sold everything. For the first time, she went home with a full purse. Her mother was overjoyed. "My daughter, see how your hands have brought blessings," she said, hugging her tightly. But Nkem wasn't celebrating yet. "Mama, it's just the beginning," she whispered. In the weeks that followed, her business grew quietly. She reinvested every naira she made, improving her packaging and adding new scents. Soon, people began asking for her by name in the market. "Where is that girl that sells good soap?" they would say. One morning, as she was arranging her stall, a familiar voice called out, "Ada Ora." Nkem froze for a moment, then lifted her head slowly. Ada Ora was standing there, her gold earrings flashing, her tone still proud. "So it's you they're talking about now, Nkem? I heard your soap is selling fast. Is it true?" Nkem smiled politely. "Yes, I thank God. It's doing well." Ada Ora crossed her arms. You've changed. Oh. Who would have thought that orange seller would turn to a soap maker?" "God gives everyone their time," Nkem said simply. Ada Ora forced a laugh. "True. Maybe I'll buy one. Just to see if it's really as good as they say." She picked one bar, examined it with a smirk, and tossed it back. "It's all right. But don't think you're better than us now." Nkem met her eyes calmly. "I don't need to be better than anyone. I just want to live without shame." Ada Ora blinked, surprised by her tone. For a brief moment, she had no reply. She turned and walked off, pretending not to care. But inside, she felt something sharp twist in her chest. The same girl she once mocked now stood firm and unbothered, with confidence she couldn't understand. That night, Nkem sat outside under the moonlight, counting her earnings. The sound of frogs echoed from the nearby stream, and a faint breeze carried the scent of soap still clinging to her hands. Her heart was full, not of pride, but of peace. She remembered every word Ada Ora had thrown at her, every laugh, every whisper. But now, those memories no longer hurt, they fueled her. She realized that humiliation wasn't the end. It was only the push she needed to find her strength. Her mother joined her, sitting quietly beside her. "My daughter," she said softly, "I'm proud of you." Nkem looked at her and smiled. "Mama, this is only the beginning. There's still more I want to do. I want to make this soap big, so that even people in other villages will know our name." Her mother nodded. "And you will, my child. You will." The night deepened, but Nkem stayed awake long after her mother had gone to bed. She stared at the stars and whispered, "They will see me differently. Not because of wealth, but because I refused to give up." Far away in the market, Adeora's friends were still talking about Nkem's soap, how good it smelled, how fast it sold. And slowly, without even realizing it, the same people who had laughed at her began to admire her. But life, as always, had another twist waiting for her. Something unexpected was coming, something that would test everything she had built and shake her world again. The Harmattan wind had just begun to sweep through the village, carrying dust that coated everything in a pale film. Business in the market had grown slow, but for Nkem, it was the busiest time she had ever known. Her small soap stall had expanded. She now had 3 young girls helping her cut, wrap, and arrange bars neatly before the customers came. What once started with old newspapers and tins had turned into a proper trade that people talked about in nearby villages. Her name had become known beyond her street. Some called her the girl with magic hands, others simply said, "Go to Nkem's stall if you want soap that lasts." She never boasted, but the quiet pride in her eyes said everything. Her mother, now stronger and healthier, often sat nearby watching her daughter work with a smile that came from deep gratitude. Every morning, Nkem prayed before leaving home. "God, bless the work of my hands," she whispered. Then she tied her scarf, carried her bag, and went to the market early enough to catch the first buyers. The same spot where Aurora had once humiliated her was now where she stood as one of the most respected traders. But with success came attention, and not all of it was kind. One afternoon, while Nkem and her helpers were busy serving customers, Aurora and her two friends passed by. They had been watching her for weeks, jealousy growing in their hearts. Aurora's business had slowed down, and her loud laughter wasn't as frequent anymore. People who used to buy her perfumes now saved their money for Nkem's soap. She stopped and crossed her arms, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Ah, Nkem the rich woman. So you've taken over the whole market now." Nkem looked up and smiled calmly. "Aurora, good afternoon." "You're welcome." Aurora said, forcing a laugh. "Your own luck is loud. People now forget the ones who were here before." "I don't think anyone has forgotten you," Nkem replied gently. "Everyone has their blessing." Her calmness only made Aurora's anger worse. She leaned closer. "You think you're better than everyone because you sell soap. Don't forget where you came from." Nkem's voice remained steady. "I've never forgotten. That's why I work hard, to make sure my mother never suffers again." Before Aurora could respond, a customer called for Nkem, and she turned to attend to them, ending the conversation politely. Aurora stood there for a moment, her pride burning. Then she hissed and stormed away. That night, as Nkem locked up her stall, one of her workers, a young girl named Ojechi, whispered, "Auntie Nkem, I heard those women talking near the well. They said something about you." Nkem frowned. "What did they say?" "They said you're using charm to make people buy your soap. They even mentioned going to tell the market leader about it." For a moment, Nkem didn't speak. Then she took a deep breath and said, "Don't worry, Ojechi. Truth always finds its way." But deep inside, she felt a knot of fear. In their village, rumors like that could destroy someone's name overnight. 2 days later, as she was arranging her table, a group of elders entered the market. They were led by the market leader, a grey-bearded man everyone respected. Aurora and her friends followed behind, their faces smug. "Nkem," the elder said, stopping before her stall, "we've received complaints about your trade. Some say you're using unnatural means to draw customers." The market fell silent. People stopped what they were doing to listen. Nkem looked up slowly, her hands trembling slightly. "Sir, I don't understand. I make my soap with oil, soda, and perfume. Nothing more." Aurora spoke quickly. "That's what you say, but how can ordinary soap sell like magic? People are leaving their stalls to buy from you. Even my own business has dropped." The elder turned to Nkem again. "We have to be sure, my daughter. Bring your things tomorrow morning. We'll check them properly in front of everyone." "Yes, sir," Nkem said quietly. That night, she couldn't sleep. Her mother noticed her silence and sat beside her on the mat. "Don't let fear sit in your heart, my daughter," she said softly. "You've done nothing wrong." "Mama, they want to shame me again," Nkem whispered. "Just like before." Her mother held her hand. "The same God that lifted you will defend you. Let them test whatever they want. Truth cannot hide." The next morning, the market square was full. Traders abandoned their stalls just to watch. Nkem arrived early, her soaps neatly packed in baskets. Her heart was pounding, but she walked with her head high. The elders sat on wooden chairs while the women who accused her stood to one side. The market leader raised his hand for silence. "We are here to find truth. Nkem, show us your materials and explain your process." Nkem knelt respectfully and began to talk. She showed them the palm oil, the soda, the perfume, and the mold she used. She explained every step clearly, without hesitation. When she finished, one of the women from the elders' side asked to smell the soap. She broke one open, sniffed it, and nodded. "This is ordinary soap," the woman said. "Clean, handmade, and good. There's nothing strange here. Murmurs spread through the crowd. The market leader turned to Aurora and her friends. You brought this complaint. Do you have proof of what you said? Adeora's face turned pale. We only suspected. Suspected? The elder repeated sharply. You tried to ruin someone's name based on suspicion. Aurora tried to speak again, but her words stumbled. The crowd began to whisper louder, and someone shouted, She's jealous. Another voice followed, You wanted to disgrace her, but see how God has turned it around. Adeora's friends shifted uncomfortably. The shame was too heavy to bear. Adeora's eyes filled with tears, but she quickly turned away. The elder stood and declared, Nkem is innocent. From today, anyone who spreads lies about her will answer to the council. A wave of applause spread through the crowd. Some of the same people who once laughed at Nkem came forward to hug her. We're proud of you, one woman said. You've shown that good work speaks louder than gossip. Nkem thanked them quietly, but when she looked around, she saw Aurora standing at a distance, wiping her eyes. Something inside her softened. She walked over slowly and said, Aurora, I forgive you. Aurora looked up in surprise. After all I did. Yes, Nkem said gently. Because carrying anger is too heavy for me. You taught me something that day, even humiliation can become strength. Adeora's lips trembled. For the first time, she had nothing to say. She simply nodded, ashamed. In the following months, Nkem's fame grew beyond the village. Traders from other towns came to buy her soaps in bulk. She trained young women, teaching them the craft so they too could earn a living. Soon, her small business became a cooperative, a group of women supporting each other, breaking free from the same poverty she once knew. Whenever someone asked her how it all began, she smiled and said, with shame. But God turned it into a lesson. Years later, people would still tell her story at gatherings, not just because of her success, but because of her heart, the way she rose after being humiliated and helped others rise with her. Her mother lived long enough to see everything. One evening, as they sat outside watching the children play and the smell of soap filled the air, Mama Nena said quietly, You've made me proud, my daughter. Nkem looked at her and smiled. Mama, everything I did for you. And as the laughter of women and children echoed through the street, the same place where her tears once fell became a place of joy. Her story spread far and wide, a story of pain turned into purpose, of dignity restored, and of a girl who proved that the strongest people are often those who were once pushed to the ground. Then, when her name reached even the radio stations in town, and her soap was sold in big markets across the state, people remembered the day she was humiliated and whispered in awe, she really turned her shame into strength. At the end of every retelling, elders would remind the young ones, never laugh at someone's struggle. You don't know what tomorrow will make of them. And Nkem, now a woman respected and loved, carried her story not as a wound, but as a crown, a living reminder that no humiliation lasts forever, and that the heart that refuses to give up will always rise again. End remark. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe, share your thoughts in the comments, tell us where you're watching from and what your time says right now. And that was the unforgettable story of Nkem, the young woman who turned humiliation into victory and pain into power. Her courage reminds us that no matter who looks down on you today, tomorrow might just tell a different story. If you felt Nkem's journey deep in your heart, don't just scroll away. Hit that subscribe button right now, give this story a thumbs up, and share it with someone who needs a little inspiration today. Tell us in the comments what country you're watching from and what your time says right now. We'd love to know where our amazing viewers are tuning in from.